Welcome everybody to Tropical Weather Update. It is Thursday afternoon on September 26th, and this is a quick update on Hurricane Helene, which is rapidly approaching the Florida Panhandle. Right now it is in the Gulf of Mexico. You'll see the stats on the screen. I'm sure you could already found this, but there are sustained winds in this storm right now of 105 miles an hour, and unfortunately it is strengthening and has plenty of time and room to become a Category 3 or 4 hurricane before it makes landfall later this evening or tonight. Probably 9, 10, 11 p.m. tonight is when it's expected to make landfall. And I'm going to show you exactly where the tracks are showing from a local standpoint so you'll be able to see. But if you live in Tallahassee, Florida, Perry, Florida, you are in danger unless you have a very, very sturdy structure to live in. If you're in a mobile home or modular structure, you need to get out. You need to go east or west. Find a way to get out of this storm's path, because this is going to be a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane upon landfall as expected. Nothing has really changed since my last video. We expected that Tallahassee would be in the crosshairs of the storm. Basically, this storm has done exactly what the forecasters have expected. Let's take a look at the satellite imagery. As you can see, an eye is formed in the middle of the storm. It is ragged, but that doesn't mean it is weak. It is in an eye wall replacement cycle, like the first one. So even though the eye doesn't look great now, in 3 hours, this eye might be perfectly symmetrical and larger. We've seen storms in the past going through its life cycle, and this storm is now about to reach, in the next 3 or 4 hours, its peak intensity. And therefore, we should see a much more well-defined and symmetrical eye and eye wall in the next 3 or 4 hours, which unfortunately is about when it's going to start coming closer to the Florida coastline. That being said, it could be worse. I've seen, obviously, hurricanes that look better than this on a satellite presentation. We see most of the storms and the highest level cloud tops to the north and to the west of the storm. To the south and east, it does not look as strong. But that does not mean it will not become stronger and more symmetrical and more organized in the next 3 or 4 hours in the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. So keep an eye on the satellite presentations. Keep an eye on the National Weather Service forecast and their advisory to see what the wind speeds and the pressure is. But it is intensifying as we speak. But again, it could look worse on this satellite. That doesn't mean, though, that it may not improve from a satellite perspective in the next 3 or 4 hours, and it forecasts it will do that. The HAFS-B model, though, this is more good news. At one point forecast this storm to have an 897 millibar pressure. At this point in time, it is forecasting it to be as low as 944 millibars, and even a little higher upon landfall. That's a Category 3-4, borderline 3 or 4, not a Category 5 as the HAFS-B model initially projected. Let's now look directly at the tracks, and you can see what the model track guidance from Tropical Tidbits shows, and that's a landfall, again, around the Alligator Point area, which is, I think, what I said in my last video, where they expected the hurricane to make landfall. That's directly south of Tallahassee, effectively. I found this other website, this National Hurricane Center, where it displays the tracks in a more localized view, and you can see where this is. These are the same tracks you just saw on Tropical Tidbits, and it's showing a landfall just south of Crawfordville, Carabel, in this area. So if you know where this area is, Bold Point State Park. I believe this is around the Alligator Point area, but it's somewhere from Carabel all the way to the St. Mark's area is about where they're expecting the hurricane to make landfall later this evening or tonight and travel basically straight through Tallahassee, Florida, or just to the west of Tallahassee, which is worse for Tallahassee because the quote-unquote dirty side of the storm, the side that produces the most tornadoes, and the side that the wind will be coming from the south, which is the same as the forward motion, and the forward motion will be accelerating, you'll basically add the forward motion to the wind speeds. Tallahassee could see winds tonight of 140 mile an hour gusts at times. I mean, that will damage most structures. And so you can see based on this map that it is expected to either cross right the center, and the eye wall will cross directly over Tallahassee, or to the west of Tallahassee based on current projections. The National Hurricane Center's official forecast has it going, I think, a little bit to the right of that. So if you live in Perry, you'd be in a little more danger if the National Hurricanes forecast track were to come through. But based on what I'm seeing here, it maybe Perry will be spared the eye wall, and it will be Tallahassee that receives the eye wall, and St. Mark's in that area of the Florida Panhandle. I did want to look at the storm surge maps, because in a Category 4 hurricane, which this likely will be, borderline 3 or 4, you can see that this area of the Gulf Coast is prone to storm surge based on the shape of the continental shelf. And the red areas show greater than 9 feet above ground of water. And you can see how far inland this goes along this area. And even far to the right of this storm, you will be affected by very large storm surge. All the way down to Cedar Key, and even down to Tampa Bay will receive a significant amount of storm surge as the night progresses and the storm gets closer to the shore and the storm strengthens and pushes that water just continuously in a counterclockwise motion toward the coastline from the center and to the right of where the center makes landfall. To the left of the center of where the center makes landfall, you don't have to worry too much, because the water will be coming offshore, or the winds will be coming offshore, pushing the water south. But to the right, which is anywhere from the Tallahassee area along the coast to the east, is where we need to be concerned. So looking at a map here, first of all, you can see how much of the shoreline is inundated by that red area of 9 to 10 foot ocean water. It takes up a lot of some of this area that is land on this Google Maps. But just to try and draw it out for you here, if the storm were to make landfall here around Alligator Point, which is about where it showed on the last map, pretty much everything here down to Cedar Key is going to receive the worst storm surge, as the counterclockwise motion of the circulation of the storm pushes water this way. Now, fortunately, this area of the state is not that populated. Let me get rid of this here. Along the coast, but there are locations along the coast that have some places. So obviously anywhere near Alligator Point, Piney Island, Shell Point Beach, St. Mark's, I mean, it's all going to be underwater, and Crawfordville potentially could be underwater from ocean water inundating that area. Most of this is like wildlife management area, fortunately, but eventually you get back down here to the areas that were affected by the hurricanes, one earlier this year and one last year, Camp Keaton. And then as you go down Steenhatchee, Fish Creek. I mean, these areas, again, are going to go underwater for a period of time this evening and tonight, depending on when high tide is. And all the way down the west coast of Florida is going to have Suwannee, Cedar Key, and even down further into the Homosassa Springs, Tampa Bay area should receive significant storm surge from a potentially Category 4 hurricane, close enough to cause the water levels to rise significantly. I'm sure we'll see that even in the Tampa Bay area later tonight. But in Tampa Bay, it might be 5 feet storm surge. As you're up here closer to Tallahassee and Alligator Point, it's going to be 9 to 15 feet of storm surge, potentially 20 feet in some areas. So it's a very dangerous situation. If you live anywhere in this area along the coast of the Gulf Coast, you need to heed your evacuation orders, immediately if you haven't already. So that's about all I have right now. If you do find this information useful, please like and subscribe. Share this information to anyone who lives in this area who's refusing to leave, so they can see for themselves the danger that this poses. Certainly, if you live in Tallahassee, Florida, you know about the storm and hopefully have taken whatever preparations you are going to take or have evacuated either to the east toward Jacksonville or to the west toward Pensacola, to avoid the worst of the storm, which will be tonight. And it's moving quickly. So by tomorrow morning, everything should be okay. One last thing, if you look at this map, the hurricane warning goes deep into southern Georgia. And that's because the hurricane will begin accelerating as the day goes on today. And it's going to make landfall and move at, right now it's at 14 miles an hour moving to the north. It's going to be moving at 25 to 30 miles an hour once it makes landfall. Therefore, it will retain its strength deep into Georgia, even into the Appalachian Mountains of Georgia, etc. And that causes the wind to even be worse when you have hills and etc. So all through southern Georgia need to be on alert for dangerous winds and weather, and eventually rain in the Tennessee Valley once the system moves completely inland by Saturday and stalls out effectively based on this map. All right, I didn't think I was going to do this long of a video, but thanks for tuning in. Be safe, everybody, and I will be keeping an eye on Hurricane Helene. Thank you.